My name is Ani Bomani, and I'm running for Detroit City Council District 4.
Please share your Detroit background and relationship to Detroit. Your history of being a Detroiter.
Well, I'm Detroit born and raised. I went to high school over by, in my district, I went to Finney High School. But I grew up in the Joy Road and Grand River area. All my life, my mother was, head of the block club, loved Coleman Young. So, I've been around. I've been an activist, as Kyrie knows. I've been an activist for 30 years, community activist and an organizer with the Malcolm X Center, Malcolm X Grassroots Movement. I've done a lot of community work.
Tell the story of what led you to run for office.
Well, one of the things that inspired me is a couple of my mentors, Kwame Kenyatta, who ran for city council, and attorney Chokwe Lumumba, who ran for mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, and now his son is the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. So I thought that we needed a change to help stop gentrification. Somebody who's really interested in the majority of the people in the city of Detroit and not our new residents, I should say.
What is your understanding of the duties of the office you are running for?
Well, for one thing, let me say I was a policy analyst and community liaison for Kwame Kenyatta for 6 years. So we make policy, we make ordinances, we manage the budget, make sure the money that's that the mayor puts in the budget, or the money, the mayor proposes a budget, and we decide, I guess, whether we should pass it or not, and where the money goes.
Are you familiar with, and what is your position on the Detroiters' Bill of Rights?
Well, Detroiters have, I believe in the Bill of Rights. There's a lot of things that Detroiters are not getting at this point. And I think the Bill of Rights will help them get some of those things if we can get enough people, at least 6 progressive people, if we make sure the Bill of Rights goes through, regardless who the mayor is.
What is your position on water shutoffs and water affordability in the city of Detroit?
Well, I do have a connection with Hydrate Detroit and with Maureen Taylor and Monica Patrick Lewis. And we've been to several of their forums. Malcolm X Grassroots Movement has been and participated in several of their forums. So I believe that in the water affordability plan, absolutely. And I don't believe that they should be shutting off anybody's water, especially in the middle of a pandemic. They shouldn't be shut off but even if it wasn't a pandemic, they really shouldn't be shutting off water, especially when they're allowing Dan Gilbert and some of my millionaires and billionaires to not pay their water bill, and they're shutting off people's water, or they were shutting off people's water for next to nothing, $100, $150. And I think he owns Quicken Loans. They own thousands of dollars. They own thousands of dollars of back payments for their water, and they have not paid. So I don't think millionaires and billionaires should get some kind of special privilege.
How would you enhance Detroit's neighborhoods, and which neighborhoods would be your priority? Any specific one?
Any place other than downtown and Midtown, yeah. I would give all the rest of Detroit priorities. Especially, there's a lot of housing issues over where I live, but there's housing issues all over the city. Some of the streets, there's some streets that don't have any houses on them. They look like bombed out Beirut. Some places. So we need to make sure that people have affordable housing. As a matter of fact, I'm on the Affordable Housing Task Force, and that is to help get a AMI ordinance downtown through the city council to make sure that there's 30% AMI means that you can get affordable housing long as you don't make over $30,000 a year, which is the poverty level at this point. We need home repair grants, especially for our seniors. We need a lot of help with housing. We shouldn't be tearing down good housing, and the housing that we do have seems like people from outside the city are buying it up. Sometimes outside the country are buying up the good housing and whole blocks, and I think the people who live here should have first choice.
What's your position on the repayment of residents who have been overassessed and overpaid property taxes?
Well, I'm one of those people. They owe me $16,000, so I'd like to have my money back. Tell you the truth. But the problem is, I mean, I can afford it, but the people who have been put out of their house because they couldn't afford their taxes, those are the ones that I would give first preference to as far as affordable housing. They need to be made whole, as they say. They need to make sure that we have housing, and the homeless population is getting out of control. As a former social worker, I retired as a social worker. Every time the Republicans get in office, the homeless population goes up. And it's gone up. I mean, I see it. It's just more and more homeless people, more and more people out begging on the streets. And we're not providing for those people. All the city seems to do is move them around. Depending on what's going on in the city, and move them from one place to the other. Just move them away from, I guess, out of the news. They don't want anybody to focus that much on them. We need to take care of our homeless population.
What is your plan and position on abandoned properties like schools throughout the city of Detroit owned by the Land Bank Authority?
I don't know. I was against the school takeover. I was against the fake bankruptcy for the city of Detroit. I think that money that they stole from the retirees and the pensions and the money that they actually took out of the millage. I mean, Engler and some of those people actually took money from the millage and put it into revitalizing downtown and midtown. That money needs to go back to the residents of the city of Detroit. If the city took your house because of overtaxation, then the city needs to give you a house and provide home repair grants, which is supposed to be coming from the American Rescue Plan. So there's money to give. And you shouldn't just do it because it's election year, because that's the reason why all this hoopla is about, trying to help people out now. But the real test, like it was in the last 30 years that he promised to do all this stuff, when the election is over, is this money still going to be available to the people who really need it?
What's your definition of police reform? Do you feel it's needed in Detroit? If so, in what ways? What is your position on facial recognition technology?
Well, I'm against facial recognition technology, absolutely, because they just make sure all black men look alike. It might be all black women look alike, So, I do think it's some inherent bias in facial recognition technology. And as far as the police is concerned, as a social worker, I think that sometimes maybe you need to hire some social workers to come in and settle some of these domestic disputes instead of sending in the gang squad, or sending in the SWAT, to handle these situations. And a lot of times they get out of hand, they overreact. And it's not to say that social workers, I've been a probation officer before, so I'm prepared for almost anything. I've tracked down and chased down people, who are in violation, who are juvenile delinquents. So I think, give them a little bit of training maybe, but the police shouldn't be handling a lot of these domestic disputes.
What do you see as the future of Detroit?
If we can get rid of gentrification, I think that we need to go back to, I like the things that they're doing in Atlanta, in Washington, D.C., what Maynard Jackson did, maybe a new revised version of what Coleman Young did. But we definitely need to make access to capital and make the city more friendly to the people who have been here, the legacy Detroiters, as they call them, the people who put their blood, sweat, and tears into the city instead of the people, I call them encroachers. The people who just showed up, and or carpetbaggers, whatever you want to call them, but they should not have access. And this should not be I think they're trying to turn Detroit into a playground for the rich. That's what I think. And move black people out, because as a social worker, I noticed that now you can't get Section 8 vouchers for Detroit. You have to move out of Detroit in order to get a Section 8 voucher, which means that they're trying to push out all the poor people, or what they consider to be undesirable people, and bring in more of, I guess, whatever they consider desirable people, which is basically white people, I guess. People of higher income. I don't think they deserve access to Detroit because they have not been here. Well, I believe that majority Detroiters matter. and the majority of Detroiters are black. And I think that we need people who are responsive to the black Detroiters, not people who are trying to get by and deal with the people who just showed up. I don't think we have a real black candidate in District 4. I think I'm the only real black candidate in District 4. I know some things about some of the people who are running in District 4, and we don't have a black candidate in District 4. You know, we have a couple of perpetrators, and of course we have the guy who used to work for Fox 2 News. You know, so we don't have a real black candidate in District 4.